Good evening, I'm Michael, and you're watching Kini News, the show that brings you today's biggest stories. Being the country's top cop surely can't be easy. He has to handle major crime and security issues, but every now and then a different kind of issue crops up. When he was asked about this today, you could hear the frustration in his voice. The latest sodomy allegation against a prominent opposition politician has left Inspector General of Police Abdul Hamid Bador feeling frustrated.
Rimas saya tengok ya. Rimas betul saya lah dalam hal-hal macam ni. Ini bukan salah you tidak. Dalam isu-isu macam ni lah ya. Dia membuang masa banyak ya. Tetapi oleh kerana telah pun dibuat, satu report polis telah dibuat dan satu kertas siasatan pun telah dibuka.
The allegation would make this the second such high-profile case under his watch, with the first implicating senior minister Azmin Ali. The latest allegation surfaced in a statutory declaration dated June 29th this year, which contained explicit details of a man's sexual encounter with the politician at different hotels in 2013. The man also claimed that he had introduced a friend to the politician upon the latter's request, and the pair also had sex. Earlier today, Malaysia Kini reported that it is believed that the man also filed a police report alleging manipulation, but this could not be confirmed. Meanwhile, Hamid said the federal CID has recorded a statement from the Commissioner of Oath on the matter. Malaysia Kini had also contacted the Commissioner of Oath, who confirmed that the document was filed and signed before her. Non-compliance to SOPs may be the reason why 2 clusters originating from Kedah have spread the way it has. Malaysia reported 7 new COVID-19 cases today, comprising 4 imported and 3 locally transmitted cases. In a press conference today, Health Ministry Director General Dr. Norisham Abdullah said 2 locally transmitted cases were from the Salah cluster, while 1 was from the Tawa cluster. While the source of infection for both clusters remained under investigation, preliminary studies showed that a lack of adherence to standard operating procedures had possibly caused the COVID-19 to spread. Meanwhile, 26 people were discharged after recovering from COVID-19 today. This leaves 192 active cases. Lim Guan Eng offered an olive branch to the Perikatan Nasional Government today, saying the opposition would back the COVID-19 economic aid, but on one condition. Former Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng said today that the opposition would be willing to support a government bill to facilitate a 45 billion ringgit fiscal injection for COVID-19 economic aid if the amount is doubled. He said this is because 45 billion ringgit is insufficient to help the affected individuals and businesses.
Sekiranya boleh dinaikkan 45 bilion, kita akan ketepikan kepentingan politik bahawa pihak pembangkang sedia untuk sokong rang undang-undang ini 100% dengan syarat ia mesti naik 45 bilion lagi. 45 bilion ringgit lagi, kalau boleh naik 45 bilion ringgit, tak ada belah bagi, kita sokong. Belah bagi untuk sokong boleh. Tapi naik 45 bilion ringgit ni, marilah kita cipta sejarah. Kerana kita mahu selamatkan ekonomi negara. Kita lihat dari segi penurunan pertumbuhan ekonomi serius. Tak pernah teruk seperti sekarang. Kita kena serius.
Lim said the idea that additional aid can be rolled out next year may prove fatal.
Kita tunggu bahawa keadaan akan pulih tahun depan. Tidak. Datuk betul. Bahayanya ialah apabila kita tunggu sampai tahun depan. Kita tidak tahu berapa banyak yang telah pun kehilangan pekerjaan, berapa banyak perniagaan yang sudah gulung tikar, berapa banyak yang mungkin tidak boleh hidup lagi masa itu. Ia sudah terlibat.
Making his case, Lim said doubling the amount to 90 billion ringgit will not cause a fiscal burden that the government cannot bear. He said the amount will help stimulate the economy and therefore the debt-GDP ratio will not exceed 60%. He also said while the deficit to GDP will go up by 9%, this is still bearable compared to the 16.7% deficit the country had in 1982. A response from the Finance Ministry in Parliament is scheduled for next Monday, as there are numerous MPs who still want to debate the bill. Lim also reiterated his call for the government to extend the loan moratorium, which ends in September, for another 6 months by injecting 5.6 billion ringgit. According to him, this will benefit 8 million Malaysians. If you thought Parliament has been awfully quiet recently, well, that wasn't the case today, after Nur Omar touched on Harapan's supposed GLC appointments when they were in power. Tanjung Karang MP Nur Omar appeared to have some issues with some of the points raised by Bagan MP Lim Guan Eng when he was debating the COVID-19 financing bill in the Dewan Rakyat today. In his attempt to hit back at members of the previous Harapan government, Nur used a point frequently used by them to criticise the Perikatan National Government, and that's GLC appointments. What ensued was a chaotic shouting match in the House.
Saya tadi bila dengar ucapan daripada Bagan, bekas Menteri Kewangan, saya rasa nak ketawa pun ada. Kalau boleh ketawa, saya nak ketawa. Boleh kata saya nak ketawa. Sebab teori yang dia bagi ni semuanya teori yang tak betul. Sampai bila nak menipu rakyat? Saya ambil satu contoh yang selalu diulang sebelah sana. Oh, dia kata apa? Dia kata ini ramai pemimpin sebelah sini dilantik sebagai GRC kerana kononnya bila lantik GRC nanti nak dapat allowance dan sebagainya. Saya nak bagi tahu. Ni, Raja Speaker. Ini, saya ada salinan. Saya nak baca ni.
He then proceeded to read out Harapan's 22nd promise from the election manifesto, which was to, quote, make the governance of all our GLCs world-class at par with international standards. The Pakatan Harapan government had also promised to make sure the appointment of the board of directors to GLCs were professionals and not based on their political ties. However, according to Nur, in Harapan's 22-month rule, many politicians were appointed as chairpersons and directors in GLCs. He also provided a breakdown saying 12 from DAP, 11 from PKR and 17 from Amanah were given posts in GLCs. This irked opposition MPs, who then demanded Nur to name the supposed GLCs, and the drama just escalated from there.
Sebut senarai syarikat, sebut dah. Apa ni?
Don't die based on your low standard.
Saya boleh sebut. Sebut. Nak sebut boleh. Sebut. Saya boleh tahu daripada DAP. Sebab ini saya boleh bagi.
Sudahlah, udang dulu lah.
Yang berhormat.
Tanjung Karang mengeluruskan Dewan lah.
Saya nak baca. Contoh. Baca. Contoh.
Macam P. Ramli, kacamata ketinggalan.
Okey, tak dengar dah tau. Lanang. Kemudian Chairman of Malaysia Timber Industry.
DAP. Itu bukan GLC lah.
Kemudian GLC lah.
Itu agensi.
Bukan GLC tu.
DAP. GLC lain lah.
Apa tu?
GLC. Come on lah.
Jangan cakap Labuan. DAP.
Orang tipu. Alah. ENB.
After being accused of not knowing the definition of a GLC, Nur Omar then challenged opposition lawmakers to cite him for misleading the House.
Bukti apa? Tanjung Karang. Span je katakan. Ini Suruhanjaya Perkhidmatan Air Negara. Ini agensi lah, bukan GLC.
Tidak ada.
Mana-mana.
GLC, Government Link Company, bukan badan. Tuan Speaker minta.
Tanjung Karang menggunakan.
Yang berhormat, baik Tanjung Karang, kalau dah selesai saya pergi ke yang berhormat yang lain pula.
Ini
Tuan Speaker,
GLC
boleh minta ruling
dan juga
tak?
badan-badan berkanun.
Tuan Speaker, boleh minta ruling tak?
Tanjung Karang keluar minum lah.
Tuan Speaker.
41 orang terlibat dilantik menjadi.
Sudah Bador, diam lah.
Coming up next, Parliament was told the shocking number of cases of sexual crimes against children. $1,721. Just take a second to think about that number. Keep that number in mind as we take a look at our next story. In the first 6 months of this year alone, Malaysian authorities have received 1,721 cases of sexual crimes against children. The shocking number was revealed by Deputy Women, Family and Community Development Minister Siti Zaila Muhammad Yusof in Parliament today.
Statistik jenayah seksual terhadap kanak-kanak pada tahun 2020 hingga 30 Jun 2020 yang direkodkan oleh Polis Diraja Malaysia adalah sebanyak 1,721 kes mengikut pecahan seperti berikut: kesalahan rogol 651 kes, sumbang mahram 106 kes, luar tabi'i 106 kes, cabul 344 kes dan kesalahan di bawah Akta Kesalahan Seksual terhadap kanak-kanak 514 kes.
Meanwhile, as of June this year, 813 cases of sexual offences against children are currently in special courts. Siti Zala said efforts are being made to raise awareness about sexual crimes against children through various school and public programs.
Dan kita lihat di Malaysia, PDRM merekodkan hampir 10,000 alamat IP yang melayari bahan lucah kanak-kanak. Maka saya ingin tanyakan, apakah perancangan kementerian dalam mahu menggubal Akta Kesalahan Seksual terhadap Kanak-kanak 2017 kerana buat masa ini, bila ia merangkumi jenayah pedofilia, dia tidak membutirkan ruangan untuk kerjasama antarabangsa. Sedangkan kita tahu, pornografi kanak-kanak dalam talian merupakan jenayah yang merentasi sempadan.
Responding to Nurul Izzah's question, Siti Zala said the ministry is also actively working with other ministries and government agencies, domestically as well as internationally, with foreign counterparts and agencies. Meanwhile, Jelutong MP Arasen Rayer, in an additional question, proposed that accused offenders awaiting trial and convicts who have been released should have electronic monitoring devices placed on them to better safeguard children.
Dan kita sangat mengalu-alukan pelbagai teknologi untuk membolehkan untuk penguatkuasaan, walaupun kita tahu electronic device ini di bawah bidang kuasa KDM PDRM, bukan di bawah Kementerian Wanita, tetapi kita sentiasa berbincang dengan pihak kementerian untuk memastikan apa jua peruntukan ataupun isu perkara yang boleh menguatkuasakan lagi peraturan untuk membenteras isu seperti ini dapat dilaksanakan.
The Trump administration has given the green light for oil and gas drilling at a wildlife refuge home to polar bears. Polar bears may have to share their home with oil drillers. The Trump administration on Monday approved oil and gas drilling in the pristine Arctic National Wildlife Refuge in Alaska. That wilderness has been off limits to drilling for decades. A Republican bill passed 3 years ago allowed the refuge to be opened to oil and gas companies, but Native American groups, environmentalists, and Democratic lawmakers have fought development. Alaska's governor and congressional delegation welcomed the move, saying it would create jobs and boost economic growth. But environmentalists slammed the decision, saying it would harm wildlife and the ecosystem. Interior Secretary David Bernhard said oil leases could be auctioned by year-end and that oil production could begin in about 8 years. Awash in a glut of oil prices have been low, but Bernhard says potential investors don't focus on spot energy prices in considering long-term projects. Energy stocks fell in early trading on Monday. And that is all from me today. For more stories, you can go to KiniTV.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook for the latest news updates. We'll be back with more tomorrow, same time, same place. I'm Michael. Thank you for watching.